For 3 centuries, Queen Zelithra of the Varelian Dominion ruled 1,000 worlds without challenge. Her fleets moved like shadows between stars, her laws bent civilizations into order, and her voice, broadcast through crystalline relays, could still a planet into obedience. To her people, she was not merely a monarch but a living constant, a being engineered by lineage and ritual to be flawless in judgment and absolute in will. Yet perfection, Zelithra had learned, came with a cost. The problem began as a whisper in the quantum archives, a place where time was measured in probabilities rather than seconds. The Dominion seers, entities grown in vats of dark matter and neural tissue, reported a narrowing of futures. Where once there had been millions of branching outcomes, now there were only a few, and most ended in collapse. The seers named the phenomenon the convergence, a slow but inevitable folding of reality in which all empires, no matter how vast, met extinction. Zelithra did not panic. Panic was for species that aged and died. She summoned the grand strategists, the architects of war, and the keepers of physics. For decades they argued, simulated, and sacrificed entire star systems to test theories. Nothing worked. Every solution looped back to the same end. Until a minor intelligence, an overlooked analytical node, flagged an anomaly. Earth. Not the planet itself but the species called humans. They were insignificant by Dominion standards. Short-lived, biologically inefficient, politically fractured. Yet the data was unmistakable. In every simulated future where a human individual played a key role, the convergence weakened. The timelines became messy, unpredictable, alive. Zelithra was intrigued. Humans were chaotic thinkers, prone to contradiction and emotion. The Dominion had long ago purged such traits from leadership. Order required clarity. Clarity required uniformity. Still, the universe seemed to favor this disorder. Against the protests of her council, Zelithra ordered a single human to be brought to the capital world of Varelia Prime. The human's name was Elias Carter. He was not a general, nor a scientist of galactic renown. He was a systems engineer, someone who fixed things when they broke in ways no one had anticipated. When he awoke aboard an alien vessel, staring into a sky fractured by artificial constellations, his first reaction was not fear but irritation. "This is a kidnapping," he muttered. "And I've got deadlines." Zelithra observed him from behind a veil of light, her true form, tall, multi-limbed, crowned with bioluminescent spines, hidden to prevent shock. Humans, she had learned, reacted poorly to sudden revelations. "You have been chosen," she said through a translator that rendered her voice as calm, resonant speech. "Your species exhibits a cognitive anomaly. We require it." Elias laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. "You crossed the galaxy for a bug in our brains." "For a feature," Zelithra corrected. "You perceive problems non-linearly. You accept contradiction. You imagine outcomes without needing certainty." "Yeah," Elias said. "We call that guessing." The middle years of their collaboration reshaped both of them. Elias was given access to the Dominion's greatest simulations. He studied the convergence not as a fate to be avoided, but as a system to be misunderstood. Where the Dominion sought perfect predictions, Elias deliberately introduced flawed assumptions. He rewrote variables to contradict themselves. He allowed emotional agents, fear, hope, sacrifice, into equations that had never accounted for them. Zelithra watched, fascinated and unsettled. "You sabotage your own models," she said during one session. "That's the point," Elias replied. "If the universe is collapsing because everything's too rigid, then your perfection might be the problem." No one had ever spoken to the queen that way and survived. Yet Zelithra did not order his execution. Instead, she dismissed her guards and stayed. Over time, she began to ask questions not required by strategy. Why did humans tell stories that ended in tragedy by choice? Why did they value individuals over efficiency? Why did Elias insist on taking breaks, on staring at stars that meant nothing tactically? Because, he said once, meaning isn't always useful, but it's what keeps us moving. Slowly, the convergence simulations changed. Futures appeared where the Dominion dissolved peacefully, transforming into a network rather than an empire. Others showed Zelithra sacrificing her immortality to anchor reality itself. None were clean. All were possible. The queen felt something unfamiliar: hesitation. Her rule had always been absolute. Now she faced a choice no algorithm could resolve. To save existence, she might need to end the Dominion as it was, and herself as she had been. When the seers confirmed it, there was no avoiding the truth. The convergence could be halted only by introducing a permanent element of unpredictability at the core of galactic power. A living contradiction. A human mind, fused with the Dominion's control nexus. It would mean elevating Elias beyond mortality, and stripping Zelithra of her singular authority. "You'll die," Elias said quietly when she told him. "Or worse, you'll become normal." "I will become finite," Zelithra replied. "Like you." He shook his head. "I didn't agree to replace you." "You were never meant to," she said. "You are meant to disrupt me." On the day of the transfer, 1,000 worlds watched as their queen stepped down from the throne of Continuum. Her light dimmed, her form shrinking, becoming something closer to flesh and bone. Elias ascended not as a ruler but as a variable. His human consciousness interwoven with systems that could no longer predict themselves perfectly. The convergence unraveled. Timelines bloomed outward again, messy and infinite. Empires faltered, adapted, and evolved. The Dominion became something new. A federation guided by probability, empathy, and the acceptance of error. Zelithra lived out the rest of her days on a quiet world with an orange sun. She learned hunger, fatigue, and the strange comfort of endings. Sometimes Elias, now something more than human but still unmistakably himself, would visit. "You ruled 1,000 worlds," he said once, as they watched the sun dip below the horizon. "Do you regret giving it up?" Zelithra considered the question carefully, as she had learned to do from him. "No," she said at last. "I ruled everything, until I needed one human to teach me how not to."